Hello all, George Torquato here, S&G Home Orchard Care and Landscape. And today we're in the beautiful Santa Clara Valley in the middle of January, and we're going to be talking about pruning a 7-year-old fully dormant nectarine tree. We're going to try to demystify some of the ideas about pruning, what to look for, and also how to grow the healthiest, juiciest, ripest fruit you can get. Before we prune, we're going to sanitize our pruning shears. You can use some alcohol, some sanitizing solution. The goal is just not to transmit diseases if we are pruning a diseased tree prior to this. So the first thing to do is to sanitize your shears. Second of all, before I start to do any pruning, the first thing I want to do is I want to look at last year's growth and want to understand how things grew. You can see we have limbs hanging down like this. There was a lot of fruit on it, and maybe the limb wasn't a good limb to select last year, so we need to remove that. What we're looking for are more vertical limbs like this here. So this limb would come off this year, and we would prune to something that's a little more vertical. Anything that's going down, you can see this limb here broke last year under the weight. Again, it probably wasn't a good limb to leave. So that's the thing we want to do. We want to go through and see a lot of these lower limbs here that are almost horizontal. These will not be good to leave. Again, under the weight of fruit, they'll snap off. Limbs like this that are more vertical, with horizontal branches like this, the fruiting wood, that's what we want to leave. So the first prune cuts that we're going to make is we're going to take the limbs that seem the most horizontal or limbs that are the weakest that will not sustain holding fruit. This limb that is going down, we can take off most of it and leave a little bit of a shoot right here. This limb here that is coming down like this, we need to take off the whole thing. Now, in addition to that, we want to prune to limbs that we know we don't want. So we take off limbs that are creating the biggest problem first of all. Some of these limbs here, again, are a little too horizontal. So we may want to take some of these off. So we're going to take it back all the way. Take that off there. This one also we're going to take off. And now we have this nice vertical limb here, and then we can clean up some of this pruning. Again, anything that's going down, anything that's crisscrossing, those are the first things that we take off. The fruit is produced on these 1-year-old limbs here. This is where the fruit is produced, but we don't want to overburden the tree. Some of these smaller limbs here, again, we don't want a fruit on that. We want to eliminate some of that. Anything that's growing down, anything that's real spindly, we want to take off and leave these. These are our fruiting limbs here. Again, something that's growing down, leave these here. We have too many coming up here, so we want to eliminate some of this because the branches are going to be crisscrossing. This here, again, we want to shorten this up a little bit. Take the lower limb off the bottom. Take this limb off here. And we're getting pretty close to where we want to be. Some of these small ones. Now we want to cut some of these limbs. We don't want them to be as long. Cut them about 2/3 of the length. But these are the fruit buds you can see here on this small growth. This is where the fruit's going to be coming off. So when I was talking about demystifying pruning, one of the things that I think is important to understand is that we don't want a lot of branches this close together. When you have branches like this close together, you get a lot of congestion and the fruit won't get full size and won't get enough sun. We left too many branches on this tree in the past, and a lot of these branches were a little too horizontal. So you can see this branch here, it's growing down. We want to take that off. If you take a little bit off as you go, then you can understand really what else you need to take off. So we take off stuff that we really know is a problem. Some of these limbs are just too horizontal. They're going to get in your face. Also, we have this cage that we've erected around it that we can put netting on when the fruit is about to ripen. And if we leave these limbs that are coming down here, they're just going to run right into this cage. So you could see here, we got a problem. This limb here looks a little more vertical. This one limb is coming into it. So I'm probably going to think about you know, what's the best way? I probably would tie this limb up like that. So, so I could put a support mechanism on this and then try to tie this up. Remove some of this wood. Again, anything that's going down, we remove. This is our fruit wood here. Again, we're going to tie this limb up. We're going to hold it up. So that's a good branch there with the fruit wood. This one here, again, we want to clean up. There's too much wood. Again, this is the fruit wood here. We want to take these little spindly branches off. Some stuff that's going into the center. Again, if the wood looks dead or dry, we want to take it off. And then you can see these here. These are going down. They're dropping down. These will not sustain fruit too well. So with some of these, we want to take off. And you can see it is horizontal, but it's a lot shorter. Some of this here we want to take off because we have the cage right here. These lower shoots right here. Again, this is our fruit wood right here. Up here, again, these are a little too long. Some of this lower stuff. This dead wood. As we come over to this branch here, again, we're going to tie this branch over. We're going to re-support this branch up like this. This branch here, again, it's going down too low. It's drooping. This won't do well holding fruit, so we want to shorten it a little bit. So we'll leave some of these shorter limbs here. If we cut them short, they have the ability to sustain fruit better, to hold it. Again, here's our fruit wood. Cut off some of these smaller ones. We want to prune so the limbs come out. Shorten them up a little bit. As we start pruning the tree and removing limbs that we know are not going to stay, it starts to clear up the picture. So we can see in here we removed a lot of the limbs. These are fruit limbs here. The wood that is produced last year produces the fruit next year. And now we're seeing that there's probably still too much congestion in here. So now we can come in and say, okay, now that we have a better picture of how much is in there, how much wood is in there, we can say we should probably remove this one. So we remove this limb right here. We're going to tie this one over, and now it's a little more open. This we can see, by removing this, we can see this is just too horizontal, and it's going to get in the way of our cage. So we take that off. Again, we're going to bring in some of these limbs. Now this is what we're looking for. We're looking for the branches, the main branch to be vertical, and then our fruit wood comes off it horizontally. This will have no trouble sustaining a good crop of nectarines. So we're working our way around this tree, and some of the problems we created in the past is we tried to keep the center open, sort of in a goblet form or shape. But what we did is we created a lot of limbs that were way too horizontal like this. Again, our main branch, we want it to be a little more vertical. So our goal is to try to bring some of these branches upright and eliminate some of these branches. Again, when they're this horizontal, the fruit just weighs them down and they don't have the strength to hold up a large crop. So some of these limbs we just have to take off. So we've taken that off. Again, we're going to prune to this branch here. We want to get rid of some of the older wood. So you could see as we remove some of the old wood, the fruit wood again is 1-year-old wood from last year. So we want to get rid of some of these smaller shoots. Cut these in a little bit. Again, this is a little bit too long. But again, this is fruit wood. Now you can see this branch is in a much more vertical position. This has a much better ability to sustain the weight of fruit. Some of these small guys off. Over here, you can see this limb right here. Again, we made mistakes in pruning in the past. Again, it's a little too horizontal. We're going to try to open up. We're going to take that off, and we're going to prune to this one. Again, we want it in a more vertical position. Also, this branch is growing down. We're going to remove a lot of that. Some of these branches, again, we're just a little too congested. This branch is growing down. Again, we're going to remove some of the small branches. Anything going down. So this here, again, the main branch is going in a vertical position. This is the fruit wood. We've removed some of the real small spindly stuff. This looks much better. Again, we have this open area here. These branches won't be conflicting with each other. It looks real good. As we work our way around this tree, we're identifying some of the mistakes we made previous years pruning this tree. And as I said earlier, a lot of the problem is we made the center too open. You do want the center open for sunlight, for air, for fruit exposure, but we made it too open. So now all of our limbs are on the outside. So we're going to have to clean up some of these limbs. And also over here, we have to be careful because this is the outer edge of our caged basket to keep the birds from eating the fruit. So we're limited on how wide this canopy can be. So we do have to sort of try to bring it in. So we're going to try to eliminate some of the limbs that are just going out. Again, a limb that's going down. So we're going to try to keep this limb here. This is a nice vertical branch. We have these nice fruit limbs on it. Want to shorten things. We don't want to put too much fruit on a limb. But you can see now, this is the fruit limbs here. These are the fruit branches. Nice vertical plane. Has a little bit of space. We want to clean up this limb over here. This is our fruit wood here. This is our fruit wood. These are where next year's crop will be formed. You can see this limb here is going, it broke. Want to remove that. Again, clean up some of these limbs. We don't want to leave them too long. This here you could see, we have a lot of shoots up here. We need to eliminate some of this. Take it out of the center. Then come about halfway. You can see here. This is where our fruit's going to be coming off. This one's going down. We can always come back in the summer and do a little more summer pruning. We don't want to take off all the fruit wood. But again, everything is nice and open. Good support for fruit for next year, for this year. So here, as we work our way around the tree, we can see in the years past, we made mistakes. But the beauty of pruning is you can always have a second chance. So here you can see we have a lot of shoots growing all over the place. We need to kind of clean it up a bit. This branch you can see is really just hanging down. We got to take this off. Again, eliminate the low hanging branches first. This branch here again is coming into our face. It's low. We're going to bump into it all the time. Leave some of the fruiting branches, but let's just shorten it up. We can get fruit on it, take the tips off. Again, as we walk around this tree, a lot of these limbs, we need to keep them in a more vertical fashion. So let's take some of this stuff off. Now here, we're going to have some congestion going on. So what do we need to do is to eliminate some of this congestion. Take that off. Whenever you prune, you want the prune to be as tight to the main trunk as possible. Here we'll take off some of these smaller shoots. Cut this down. So now again, we've opened it up. We have lots of airspace, lots of sunlight. We're not conflicting with this branch. And the main trunk or branch is going in a vertical plane. That's what we want. Trying to eliminate these branches that had too far horizontal, bring them vertical, and then the fruit wood off of those. So this is the outer limits of where our netting is going to be. And we have these branches that we can see may be a problem. So what we need to do is select one of them, keep one, and get rid of one. Since this branch here is more in the middle between the two outer branches, we're going to remove this branch right here. Now what we're going to do is, if we have to, we can stake this branch, but now we're just going to clean it up. We're going to sort of redirect the growth from going out horizontal. We want this growth to go more vertical. So take this branch off that was going horizontal. You can see this one here is broken. We're going to take that off. This here, a little too long. Actually take the whole thing off. So now we're going to give this branch a chance to sort of invigorate itself, to fill in this area here, and it gives us room away from the netting. So now you can see everything is in a more of a vertical plane instead of everything being horizontal. So we've finished pruning this tree, and you could see it's quite different from where we began, when we had a lot of limbs that were hanging down horizontal, really unable to sustain a large crop. Now our main branches are much more vertical, with our fruit limbs here spaced out evenly. This is really what we're looking for. This is the architecture that we're looking for. The next step would be to dormant spray. We definitely want to put at least 2 or 3 dormant sprays on this tree before the bud break. Do you have any questions? Please leave a comment. And if you like what you've seen, please hit the like button.